So we're hosting our final for the year of the New Jersey Coalition for Religious, Spiritual, and Mental Health Leaders. The title of that will be walked through and discussed over the next month or two, especially in January, we'll come back, but we're using that as a title. And I would like you, Dr. Ashley, to introduce yourself, just at least for the record. And as I start here, I did post your presentation from ISPS.
I saw that. I had not seen that it was posted. I saw that. I said, oh.
I found it.
Where did you post that?
I posted it in the link, in the invite link. And they are on YouTube. Well, the keynotes are on YouTube now. The rest of our presentations, I still think, are on ISPS. But it was so powerful. I'm gonna do a little bit of this introduction here. I encourage anybody on our team to really sit and put time into it. I think it was at least an hour or so, but every minute, every moment was powerful. And Dr. Ashley, some of us in the back who were very clearly Christian, and you were doing amen, amen. I'm saying, we're at church today. We are at church at a conference.
Well, it made sense. Like, Sunday morning Baptist preacher, play around with it, so to speak.
But we were at a conference, and man, I just said that is part of a new paradigm. I welcome it. So welcome tonight. I hope you do consider joining us as we get into the new year, and hopefully you get to meet some others. But why don't you just introduce yourself? You have a long list of credentials and engagements.
Yeah, you can read all that stuff. Will Ashley, born and raised in Harlem. I'm a New York City guy. I'm a T-neck transplant, or been living here, I guess, what, about 16, 17 years now. As a result of marriage, but I always wanted to live in Teaneck, so it's kind of like, okay, I've arrived. I don't know, whatever that means. I'm supposedly retired from full-time academia, but one of my friends said two of my friends said two things. One friend said, "No, you're taking an incomplete. You're not fully retired. Just taking an incomplete." My other friend said, "No, just take away the RE. You're just tired." So that means I teach at a whole bunch of places an adjunct for a whole lot less money, basically. Teaching as many courses for a whole lot less money than I did when I was full-time. Doing that, have a private practice up in Upper Montclair, and that's doing very well. And everybody from the soccer mom to the public assistance folks to the star athletes and celebrities that scare the crap out of my colleagues when they see these big bodyguards standing outside the door. If you knew it was inside, you'd understand why there's a big bodyguard outside the door. Okay, so calm down. So that I get a kick out of some of the folks getting overly nervous seeing these big black guys come in the building, and they say, "Oh, you must be nervous too. You're staring." I said, "No, I'm staring. How did that big guy get out of that Lamborghini?" I have a different reason for staring at all. Anyway, so I do that. I'm doing a lot of undoing racism workshops, webinars, seminars, literally globally. And I've had the pleasure of working with a number of universities, some of which are Ivy League institutions, and helping them in a number of different ways. And so here I am.
Excellent. Well, excellent. Thank you. So for the overview of this coalition, this initiated November 2nd at Rutgers University, when we, the three of us and others, were at the Rutgers Medical School Urban Mental Health Conference with Dr. Petros Lavanas, former Governor McGreevey, and other presentations. And it really was about the spiritual side of mental health. And we hosted a roundtable at the end of that conference where Dr. Dale Caldwell facilitated a group of 10, 11 of us as a coalition, a beginning coalition. We had various religious leaders and mental health professionals at that. And that is a recording. I did leave a recording in the Zoom link as well. That's just a kind of a summary of that. It's a real.
That's important. When you say that, Janet, it reminded me. I'm on Christine Davies' board. I forgot about that. at the hospital.
You are, okay.
Yeah, yeah, the pastoral care department. Yeah, Christine Davies. I am a John DeVelder, I guess, protege or alumnus before he had passed away when he was at the hospital, and I'm also on the SIDS board with Dr. Barbara Osfelt and her husband, because they're part of the Robert Wood Johnson also, and we all our meetings are there, and they're at the medical. They're both at the medicals, teach at the medical school.
Well, I'm going to make a link back to that in a little bit of my experience at Rutgers, but I'm going to hold that off on it. So the first topic is this coalition started November 2nd, and we were all very astonished that the medical school was bringing out the spiritual part. And so, Sara, why don't you introduce yourself and then connect it right to your experience on November 2nd, because you were there.
Okay. My name is Sara Valez. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the owner and founder of Operation Hope, which is a private practice in Monmouth County. And we provide equine assisted psychotherapy. So it's therapy with horses all on the ground. There's no riding. So there is therapeutic riding, but this is different. We do it more trauma focused. We provide free therapy to veterans, their families, survivors of human and sex trafficking. I'm on the board of a nonprofit out of Atlantic City that supports those survivors. And we do telehealth. It's just my business partner and I. We do telehealth, and then she does ecotherapy. So that's kind of the holistic model that we utilize. And I met Janet and Calvin at a mental health association luncheon. I think it was over the summer. And then we kind of just got connected through this topic of spirituality and mental health. They came to the farm, which is in Colts Neck, and we filmed a little bit there. And then just kind of continuing this discussion of how to just, you know, bring this topic into more of the standard of care in mental health and the medical community. And then when they invited me to the Rutgers conference, I gladly accepted because it was just so incredible to watch, you know, sorry, my phone is charging, medical doctors and professionals just so beautifully speak about, you know, spirituality, religion, incorporating that into the standard of care in mental health, and how to just really bridge these discussions with, you know, pastors. And we had imams at the roundtable discussion and rabbis, and just the whole kind of, you know, religious, spiritual, even atheist, you know, just the whole topic has been just really incredible. And it's just been a great kind of continued discussion since that roundtable. So we're so glad you're here tonight with us.
Glad to meet you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Sara will be part of the pastoral care retreat. We are going to integrate equine therapy in part of it to have the experience of that. So we'll, you know, you'll see more about that. Calvin, before we go to the next topic, do you want to comment any more about the November 2nd? Calvin was a presenter, and you heard some things that maybe you haven't heard before come out of Rutgers.
Well, yeah, I knew that it was coming because I had seen the brochure, but when I first saw the topics and who was presenting, I was surprised, because it really is the first time that I've seen anything in the Rutgers system directly focus on it, and especially put it in the broad perspective that they did, and directly connect it with the faith community, because sometimes that gets avoided in a university setting. So I was surprised. I thought the presentations were very well done. I just thought it was a great day. It was just great to see it.
What do you think is the driver
of doing it? Well, that campus, the New Jersey Medical School, that part of the Rutgers campus, has this conference every year regarding mental health and religion. So they have done other things with the faith communities. So there's an active dialogue going on at that campus, but this is the first time they brought all of it into spirituality. It's been other things in other years. So they've got a group that has some sort of dialogue. I'm on a different campus, so that I don't know exactly what goes on, but I think the driving force of the focus on spirituality was Dr. Lavonis. He's an addiction psychiatrist, and he, in his work in addictions, is very open and recognizes the important role of spirituality in recovery. So he's got sort of a common connection with the topic, with the language in a clinical sense. So I've been trying to have conversations with him, and I think he's making an effort to see where some of this information can begin to impact psychiatry and mental health in a broader way, actually outside and beyond addiction. Willard, you probably know, in the mental health field, addiction sort of takes a stepchild position. And some of the things that are good for addiction and recovery have yet to come into the broader mental health. So, but yeah, I think Dr. Lavonis was the driving factor for this topic at this conference.
So that day really launched what we call is, a routine roundtable, weekly New Jersey Coalition, Religious, Spiritual, and Mental Health. I have a very, very personal connection to that conference. I will share some of the slides if you like. And my favorite are when they're comparing or trying to contrast a spiritual crisis and psychosis. And they're starting to differentiate. And why is that important to me? It's going to lead into a project we're doing, a docuseries and a feature-length movie. 44 years ago today.
Oh, really?
44 years ago today, I was sitting on a couch, Dr. Ashley. And where was that couch? The couch was Rutgers Mental Health Behavioral Inpatient Unit. I was 25 years old. And I had the most beautiful Christian Holy Spirit experience while I was at college. And I knew what it was. But one, I couldn't explain it. And two, I didn't tell anybody. So, and I was a staff member, so I was watched. And I'll really shorten this. But today I was sitting in the hospital and I was on the couch. Why? Because I was there a week and a half, and I was helping patients because all I wanted to do was help from that experience. And one of the staff members said, "Janet, you better start acting like a patient and sit down because they'll never let you out." And so I sat down because I wanted to be out for Christmas. And I got out in 2 days. As soon as I stopped, I was out in 2 days, and I got back to college and finished my master's. But this is the season. And it took 44 years for me to get where I am and assemble a global team to, one, find out it's happening all over the world in all cultures. Spiritual experiences being misdiagnosed and then forced drugged and hospitalized. And we now have more research. And then when Rutgers came out with this, I said, it's time. We want to create a documentary that is also friendly, compassionate, respectful of the psychiatric world and meds and hospitals, but to really want to get into differential diagnosis, to really say, let's validate true spiritual experiences across all religions. So that really is the link from November 2nd. I'm like, it's out, the content's here. And so even let's just stop for a moment, because we're going up to Centenary tomorrow University, and we're going to be talking to them about this and about filming there. We have filmed, we're going to film more, but we would like to include you in this, and maybe even comment about what you know of what I said, spiritual crisis being mislabeled. Maybe you can start there.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but I did a book called Disaster Spiritual Care.
Okay.
And it's in its second edition, new and revised, expanded, with a openly gay Jewish rabbi, Stefan Roberts. and it's an edited volume, and we wanted to do things, and everybody said couldn't be done. We found a black person from Utah who talked about that experience. We found a woman imam is in the book. So we tried to find people, the ones that don't have, we can't find those, but we found them, but more importantly was one of the chapters that I was one of the contributors talked about the difference between a spiritual emergence and a spiritual emergency.
I'm getting the book.
And that's a disaster spiritual care, and it's in there. It was on, and the publishers only let me do a couple of paragraphs on it because they were kind of squeamish about it.
I'll bet.
What year? What year was it published?
I think the second one came out. The first one came out in, I think, 2008, and the second one came out, I want to say, around 2017, 2018.
All right, so 2008 was when they originally said keep it small.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they was real squeamish, and I said, you know what? It was either keep it small or you don't put it in the book at all. So I figured it's better at least at least make mention of it. And then when we want to do the reprint, it was sold to here we go. It was sold to a Christian organization who really didn't want it in the book. I know, out of Tennessee, and not trying to do stereotypes, but a Christian organization out of Tennessee, and they really didn't want it in the book. So they said, okay, we'll leave it at this. We didn't get any letters, because that was the rubric. Okay, so nobody complained about it, but we're really squeamish about it. So they let it stay in there.
We want you in the documentary. We want you in the documentary. We're going to get that book, because that is what I faced. Not just 1979, but here's the end of that story, and we're going to connect and welcome Robert. In 2005, Dr. Ashley, I decide I'm going to speak out and do something. I go on Wall Street. I speak to financial guys, and I'm looking for funding to train medical students on the DSM-V code that talks about spiritual and religious problems, and to address this issue and introduce that spiritual crisis is not necessarily psychosis.
Right.
Here's the close of the story, and then you're going to have to watch the movie. 9 days after I did that presentation, I go up and tell my mother all of this for the first time in 25 years, and she calls 911 and has me escorted into a mental institution for the second time. This time I am totally conscious, and I said, look, I'm making a movie out of this, and they put that in my medical report and said I was kind of crazy. So anyway, we'll pick up the rest of that. So we have a lot to talk about, but you're well aware of the evolution or the non-evolution and understanding that, and we want to make that we want to make a difference there.
Janet, could I say something just before you leave the November 2nd conference? I think one of the things that came out of that was more awareness of what clergy leaders in the faith communities are looking for in terms of a bridge with mental health services, that there really needs to be a dialogue on both sides. The mental health people need to hear what the spiritual experiences are really about, and the clergy need to hear the mental health piece. And where do we support each other, and where do we hand over to the other person? So I think that need is something that is more visible in New Jersey as a result of all this.
So I will send you the 64 slides from following 9/11. We did the Care for the Caregiver Interfaith Program, a ministry of the Council of Churches of the City of New York. And that was what we had used to help the 7,000 caregivers in New York City get some kind of care, and also do some triage following 9/11.
That would be great.
And I was the bridge, being both a pastor and a clinician, and could speak both languages and bridge both worlds. And to your point, Calvin, saying to the pastors, saying to the interfaith clergy, we need the mental health people. They're not the devil. Calm down. But then saying to the mental health people, I'm glad you published in Journal of Medicine. You got all these degrees. You need these folks that are clergy because they see more people on the weekend than you see all month. Calm down.
Absolutely.
So that's a good segue into introducing Reverend DeVeaux. We're talking about the November 2nd Rutgers event, medical school, and how that launched the roundtable and launched an ongoing conversation. And we do intend to continue this well into next year and bridge that conversation between all religious leaders, spiritual leaders, mental health professionals, and psychiatric care. That is what we're looking to do and impact it. I'll go through some of the initiatives before we close. But Reverend DeVeaux, if you would introduce yourself, and if you wanted to comment on what that Rutgers event did for you and or the roundtable.
Let me say good evening to all those who I haven't met. Hello, Sara and Janet, Calvin, good to see you again. I'm very familiar with my brother, Dr. Willard Ashley.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, I think we crossed paths many times.
So then
Okay.
you don't have to introduce yourself.
No, what a great addition. What a great addition. He just has a wealth of experience and knowledge that can help and assist this endeavor. And so here again, I went in November, met Dr. Calvin while I was trying to pick up me some breakfast. He recruited me to the round table, and what a blessing it was.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited about this new formation as far as this discipline, which I think is one that the community needs. And so, and our pastoral leaders, I mean, we need it. I work in it, as you know, in the clinician side in the school system. And so it serves me and has served me as a pastor in the community. And so I want to thank you. I want to do all I can to be a part of this group and to, just expand upon it. Sister Janet, I haven't forgot about you. I am going to merge you with New Jersey together as I'm connected there. And we can see if we can make some headways there. So stay tuned for that call as I'll bring you and Brother Calvin, whoever, at least for that particular introduction. But I'm here to learn, I'm here to be better, and I'm here to help our community. So
Robert, you didn't mention one of the biggest things. You are a pastor of a church right next to the medical school, I think. And you have a private practice in clinical service.
It's not a private practice, but I do
okay.
I do work in it. My basic clientele, which is a vulnerable clientele, is teenagers, really those young people between 14 and really about 2021, and their families. And so so the mental health is very pervasive at that level. And you can't imagine, the weight that comes into the school as far as that mental capacity or that lack thereof, during the school day. So
where's your congregation? Since Calvin brought it up.
Humanity is on 235 Bergen Street, 14th and Bergen.
Oh, okay.
14th and Bergen. So it is down the street from the medical school, and I want to, offer them space if ever they want to set up shop in the community. Do something, in the parking lot or in the community, offer any type of survey or services, seminars. You guys have my blessing.
Cool.
Well, thank you for being here. We'll have Paul introduce himself, and then I'll walk through some of the items on the agenda so there's a wider perspective for this. Paul was also there on November 2nd. So we have a good November 2nd contingent here. Paul, do you want to introduce yourself? I think the only one you don't know is Dr. Ashley.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Paul LaClair. I was late because I dropped off the keys to a friend who's moving into an apartment in Kearney. Did you get my note on that, Calvin?
No, not yet.
June's moving in.
Uh-oh.
I
June's
came
moving,
right from work and got to here.
yeah, June's moving into an apartment in Kearney right now.
Okay.
So it should be a mile away. So I do a lot of work on human values, and I have a website, and I'm involved in making a lot of videos, and I'm going to see if I can become a superstar on social media. We'll see.
You
Like,
left
tell
out
them what you do for a living.
my favorite part, the medical malpractice lawyer.
That's right. I'm a medical.
Oh, okay.
That's how I make the money, so I can do all this other stuff.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So I'm going to make a quick link. I met Paul back a few years ago. In addition to doing a docuseries, we actually started off with a feature-length movie, which is also being developed. The feature movie is named Calling God to the Witness Stand. And it is a fictionalized court case where my character is suing the psychiatric hospital for whatever the words are, not adhering to at least the V code, and my plea to say, that I'm having a spiritual experience, etc. So there's a court case happening, and Paul and I originally talked about that, but we're currently working to be introduced to different law firms in New Jersey to help us put the court case together. That's for the movie. And our purpose is really to educate, not condemn. It'll be an interesting design. But anyway, it'll be all fact-based. And so that's paralleling development as we do the docuseries.
Okay.
So moving into the next part of the agenda, Dr. Caldwell may show up tonight, but a number of us are going to Centenary University tomorrow, and we'll meet some of their staff from the Counseling Center, Student Life, and Campus Ministry. And we'll be working on building a relationship with them because Dr. Caldwell offered Centenary University as a home base or a base of operations for this project and the documentary. So we're going to start there tomorrow with reviewing and meeting each other and looking at objectives, et cetera, and goals. And then in January, we're going to be going back. Hopefully more of you can come and we will start filming, which will include students speaking on mental health and the spiritual side of mental health. So let me highlight a few things that we'll be doing tomorrow, but connect to this coalition and also are included in the documentary. So one, and Calvin, maybe you can comment on this. We have an intent to influence the 988 rollout in New Jersey, where we get to include the religious and spiritual leaders in the standard of care, in screening, in partnership with the psychiatrist, hopefully to prevent some hospitalizations. But if it goes into a hospitalization situation, that we want the clergy able to be called. We want patients to be respected when they want it, and we want to make it known. So Calvin, do you want to comment briefly on that intent?
Well, I still have yet to hear from Heather on the it will happen. What you're referring to, I think you mentioned it in terms of 988, but I think, aren't you also thinking about it in terms of the new law in New Jersey?
Well, yes. So the new, go ahead. Yes, it's all connected. New law, 988, including clergy and standard of care. That's kind of
988 is sort of the helpline to, in many cases, replace 911. So that police aren't the first people that end up on a scene with someone in a mental health or spiritual crisis. However, they are, Reverend Ashley, they are much more focused on DEI rather than the spiritual part that should be sort of underpinning all of DEI efforts. And we're hoping to have some influence to actually intentionally bring in the spiritual part of assessment crises and just people in distress. So we're
So I
still
have
trying to
some.
figure out how to do that with the state.
So I don't know what, I don't know if it's the same in New Jersey, but in the New York 988, where there's some tension between us, which we're trying to still iron out. For us in the New York side, that used to be the Mental Health Association. It's now Vibrant.
Yes.
Yes. And
And
they lead the whole country. Do you know those
yeah,
people, Willard?
oh yes, we do know each other.
Then we need to talk because they're key for the whole country, not just New Jersey.
Okay. And so just so being transparent, there's some tension because I've called them on some of their stuff.
Good.
And I literally had a meeting last week with Dennis Romero from SAMHSA Region 2. And he and I have done some things together. And we're gonna actually do a conference in probably Albany in the summer around mental health. Well, he and I were talking about the tension between Mental Health Association, Vibrant, and the community and SAMHSA, because really it's a SAMHSA project.
Yes.
Did they let Vibrant act as though they're the lead, but they're not the lead. They report to SAMHSA, but nobody would know that.
Well, SAMHSA gave them a multi-million-dollar contract to do this for the entire country.
Right. So now SAMHSA's trying to rebrand and say, wait, whoa, this is our project, guys. Calm down. Anyway, so.
Oh.
Dr. Ashley, are you at liberty to share some of the tensions? Because I'm going to add to.
So back in over the summer, a group called AMHA, All Healers Mental Health Association, which I'm a part of, comprised of primarily the presidents, directors, heads of the Black mental health organizations in the United States. It was started by a Black psychiatrist, Phyllis Harrison Ross, who I mentioned, who's considered the mother of Black psychiatry. And it came out of the work that we were doing in following Katrina, where mental health providers in Louisiana, Gulf states following Katrina were having a really difficult time. And some of them even took their lives. And so we started initially as a check-in, like, how are you doing? Are you doing self-care? And then it morphed into talking about the state of mental health in Black America. And so we meet every other Sunday evening at 7 o'clock. And again, added to that mix became NAACP, Urban League, and other organizations that care about state of Black folks, and talking about, again, globally, what's going on. So that we did this presentation at American University over the summer through the Vibrant Conference. And we talked about our experience in Buffalo, New York. Because I was literally in Buffalo the day that Tops reopened. And I was sitting with the city council president, who's a Black Baptist minister, by the way, Reverend Pridgeon, and some of his staff. And we were talking about what was it like for them to go back to Tops for the first time during the reopening and the dynamics around that. And throughout that, right after the killing, we have been in contact and working with the mental health providers on the ground in Buffalo and the clergy. And I'll say this out loud, the clergy didn't want us. Because they said, we don't know why the hell Willard actually came up here. There's no money. I pay my own expense. I naturally pay, I came because I do disaster, and you just had a disaster. And this is what I do. And they said, and some of them even said, we just pray. Like, okay. I believe in prayer. I'm a Black Baptist pastor, 40-something years. I know how to pray, but okay, whatever. And so what ended up happening is that talking, doing the, your primary research, the congregations were saying, we love our religious leader Friday through Sunday. Imam, rabbi, pastor, priest, whatever. But after benediction, they have no understanding or appreciation of our pain. And the quote was, after benediction, they're useless and clueless. What can you do, Willard, to talk to them and say, hey, this is not your field. You're great on the weekend. We love you when you come to the hospital to visit us, but trauma is not your field. Mental health is not your expertise. Can we invite folks that look like us? I get that part, that do this for a living, that understand trauma and understand how do you recover from these kind of things. And so there's been kind of mixed reaction. And all I want to say was I just wanted to say to the local folks, I'm not trying to take anybody's job. I'm just trying to say, I do this. I can help you. I'm going back to New Jersey to Teaneck. So, I'm not staying here. I'm just trying to be helpful. And so there were so many. So we did the conference at Vibrant. But long story short, back at American University over the summer. And Grant, our friend Grant, presented, and his two other psychiatry colleagues presented their new life cycle of disaster. Have you seen that slide? You see? No? Okay.
I'd like to.
I'll find it and I'll send it to you. So they presented this new life cycle of disaster, and I critiqued it and said, interesting. I'm missing where the people of color part comes in. Maybe me, maybe I'm being sensitive. I know I'm not, but I missed that part. And so that kind of started some bit of attention, because I've known Grant for a long time. We still were friendly and still texting, all that kind of stuff, but they could feel the tension. And I said, it feels like to me that you've taken some Black stuff and slapped your name on it. And so that's kind of where the tension came.
That's where you are. Okay. So I'm going to bridge from that to one. The need for mental health training for clergy also came out in our conversations. So two of the things we want to do next year is, one, care for clergy and start moving that. But there are a number of clergy that said, we really don't know what to do in a crisis. And we usually just want to call somebody to help. And then they would also say, and then they lose their person. Like if the person gets moved into the mental health system or into psychiatric care, there's no connection. So there were a number of concerns there. So the second event we want to do next year is just basic mental health for clergy. And I would lean more into even the crisis part of how to handle that and then how to partner. So we're coming up with a list of things we'd like to check in with you on. The second piece of how it connects to the whole 988, and again, it's very personal for me, because I was escorted by police, not having any danger to self or other, or not even acting out at all. Anyway. So police de-escalation, or the crisis intervention team de-escalation, where the patient is fully the client, the individual is respected and conversed with. We've had various members here, Reverend Sparks, et cetera, say, we need to start with just empathy and compassion and calm the whole situation down. And the prejudice that exists in those situations is extreme for various people of color. And I'm going to say probably women too, but so the whole de-escalation, just the power of that, we want to be influencing that. But again, one of the big pieces is to include that people have spiritual and religious challenges or experiences, and let's see how we can include clergy. I will make one quick link back to the Rutgers presentation. There was a psychiatrist team speaking about, they were actually promoting and saying they call clergy, they call a religious leader, or want to, or say they should, before they do a diagnosis, when it has a lot of spiritual elements to it. We all found that astonishing. But then we said there are a lot of clergy that wouldn't know how to answer that question. So this whole teaching, training of the crisis of spiritual experience, not just regular mental health, is an agenda for next year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So would anybody else want to comment on that? Reverend DeVeaux, do you want to comment on, has that been clear as we've been talking? Is that something that you see as valuable for us to look to do next year?
Preparing the clergy.
Yeah. Crisis,
Absolutely.
crisis.
Absolutely. As I said, I mean, as a clergy, I'm probably at a advantage because of my secular work, my license. I'm required to constantly stay updated, to do the mental health training, and things of that nature. So I have an added advantage, and I see the benefit though. So if we can provide something, to the clergy so they can become a little more comfortable and aware, of the skill set that's necessary to meet the community needs. Absolutely. So I think that's definitely headed in the right direction. When you agree, Brother Willard?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally. I was supposed to do a 2-week support group for clergy, Baptist clergy in a couple of geographic locations. We were in year 3.
Absolutely.
And every time I said, you want to stop? No, 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 no. We don't want to stop. Like, oh, okay. And I think we only missed 2 weeks. The inauguration of Biden, and I think Christmas or something fell on a weird kind of a day, and we didn't meet that day. And we got some funding from insurance companies. So, maybe we'll save money if you keep these guys kind of calm, guys and gals kind of calm. But to your point, I do mental health with them, but through the back door. Because I was told if you tell us you were crazy, we were going to curse your ass out.
And Willard, we're trying to do it from the other side. We're planning some trainings beginning hopefully in February and March that, Robert, you were at the Urban Mental Health Conference and you heard my presentation. There's a language that bridges mental health and religion. And the workshops and the trainings are more designed for mental health, but we're going to invite the clergy and faith leaders because we want that training and that introduction in the language to have cross connection and cross discussion.
Yeah.
So as soon as we set those up and have flyers, we'll let you know. But we need to get the mental health side to not get scared or dissociate or disconnect when they hear the spiritual part. So we've got to come at it from both angles.
And we do lots of we make lots of connections between quote unquote sacred literature, or in our case the Bible, and mental health. And I think it'd be helpful if you can hear from both of us, both clergy and mental health providers, hear the links. We talk about Elijah being depressed, in a cave, and nobody, da 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 da, and so forth, and a bunch of other places. And we even diagnosed Jesus, but that's another conversation. That's a longer conversation.
I want to go to that. I want to go to that. I would really love to do, really understand and learn and engage in a Christian version of this, because that we just go in the Bible, and I've studied that myself as well. We'll take that offline. We're looking to bring all different faiths in, the Hindu priest and all of it. How does that change? How does it change the agenda, or does it? I'm asking you, Dr. Ashley, like when you bring the whole interfaith community into that mental health conversation.
Because here we go. I'm seeing this online. Here we go. You always appeal to the narcissism. How does this benefit you, right? So I say to clergy, so you do recognize that people are hurting in your pews. And I'm a Fosdick fan, and that was one of his big things when he was at Riverside. And so one of the ways that you can address it is where they're hurting people in the Bible, and then apply your DSM-5 TR to what would be the diagnosis of what boxes are this person checking in the Bible. And so how do you say, oh wow, so then you normalize it and say that God could use and has used great people in the Bible that had issues. And one of my favorite sermons, Pastor, one of my favorite traveling sermons is raise your hands if you have issues.
I would like to go work offline a little bit and learn more about what that is that you do that was supposed to be a week or 2 weeks and now is 3 years. Is there a name for that group or what is that?
No, it's this is clergy support group.
Clergy support group. Okay.
And it meets for an hour and a half. And initially it was, again, to talk about self-care in the midst of the pandemic.
Okay.
It just morphed into anything you want to talk about, but it's focused on self-care, mental health self-care for the clergy.
Gotcha. Okay. Excellent. I'm going to take that and bridge to Sara and just do a little bit of touch base on the Care for Clergy Day that we'll do. And obviously it's almost like that day might turn into a multi-year process too, right? So far, the various clergy we've spoken to, they want it to be, you know, mostly relationship building with each other. We're not going to be doing presentations and information. It is going to be truly care and relationship building. But Sara is going to be running the equine therapy in the morning. So if you would just comment a little bit about that, and then I'm also going to bridge to, and we want to influence other alternatives that are available. For example, there are peer respites that are not locked doors, you know, locked and don't force medication. And maybe if you wanted to comment on that too, Sara, because we're trying to promote other resources that we have in New Jersey that are not direct meds, hospital, lock them up. So Sara, would you mention a little bit more about what that process is like for, if we have some clergy out on the farm, you know, what is it that they might experience with the horses?
Okay.
Sure, right. So it's being with the horses, it's really just about being present, connected, you know, the horses kind of invite you to be connected with them, because if you're like Calvin said, dissociated or you're not there, the horses in real time show you that. So they'll walk away or they won't engage with you. So it's kind of an opportunity to really just practice that connection, mindfulness, just be, right? I think so much of I mean, I do traditional talk therapy. Psychotherapy is about, you know, the processing and the outcomes and all that. And equine assisted psychotherapy is just kind of for that experiential breakthrough sometimes that needed in the therapeutic process. But the pastoral retreat would just be about just healing, being, you know, being outside, being in a group with the other pastors, in a literal herd with the horses. So it's kind of bringing in a lot of different elements, which is really healing and really powerful. And then as Janet was saying, you know, we kind of, the second half of the day would be more of like a retreat style at either at Centenary or at Abundant Life Church in Freehold, and just more kind of free form, free flowing. We don't want to have a lot of structure, a lot of, you know, speaking at people, or, you know, just kind of that connection, just again, just the invitation to just be with each other. And as Janet was saying, kind of with the respite care, that's kind of how I got involved in the documentary, was just to expose that there are alternative forms of therapy that aren't, you know, just the traditional sitting on the couch, and that for some people that like that works. And I love that, but sometimes we need those other alternative forms for people that might be a little adverse to that, or just might need a different experience. So yeah. Anything else, Janet, kind of?
Yeah, so I'll just mention that. So equine assisted therapy is an example of introducing an alternative, another experience. And then we're going to be looking to educate on, you don't always have to call the crisis unit. You don't always have to escort one of your congregants into, or put up with just going into the hospital. There are peer respites, 3 of them in New Jersey. We're trying to make that more informed, that this house exists, people can go in, somehow it's covered, you know, it's $200 compared to $800 or $1,000. And they have full professionals in these houses. We have 3 of them. We're working with CSPNJ, Collaborative Support Programs of New Jersey, to see how can we get 1 in every county. so that the option is there that has dignity, respect, agency for the individual. So we're looking to advance what are the other tools and resources that clergy can use and influence a positive outcome for people.
And if
Janet,
you haven't already,
I don't know, but often churches have services like that. Willard and Robert, are you aware of, does the faith community have anything organized in any way for like respite for, I know many churches have taken care of homeless
right,
and served as homeless shelters, but have
right.
they done anything more in terms of social services and like that or not?
Well, hold on. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Yes. Not now, you just shut yourself off.
And we'll come back to your point,
Well,
Dr. Ashley.
that's you know that's on an individual basis. You know, the churches have that type of autonomy. So, for instance, because it's part of who I am, through my church, we partner. Just like I do in the school system, we partner. You know what I mean? So there's no need to try to do it all, but you kind of triage this thing. You know what I mean? And so as they come through the door and I can, see what's going on with you, I may have to send you here to Integrity House, or I may have to, send you somewhere else to get the mental health thing and facilitate that. Make the phone call, make the appointment, sit with you, and it's the same thing more or less that we do even now post-pandemic, in the school system. So we had to, really get services to come in because things are happening so rapidly. And of course, the African American church and the African American community, much like the urban school, is the local FEMA. So they'll come in and say, look, this is the problem. And of course, you're not prepared within the house on the spot to just handle everything, but you can kind of get it to its proper place and lead them where they need to go. So, yeah. So, but that's per church. I mean, I got colleagues who won't visit nothing like that. You know what I mean? And I'm no better than them. I think I have just been better prepared, more exposure, more opportunity.
Yeah.
So.
Dr. Ashley, if you wanted to comment on that, but you
Well, I was
also.
going to say he said what I was going to say, and in fact, I was going to say that pretty much was the caregivers program following 9/11, was that if you give clergy basic skills, that we become the triage over the weekend. Because you see folks, when we do take attendance, and we could tell, some sisters don't look quite yourself, and go see so-and-so. I want to go see somebody. And people say, on what I call the roller coaster, the receiving line, where you go from I'm pregnant, is that a good thing or bad thing, to I'm going for cancer, I got cancer, I'm going for surgery, pray for me. So, we get multiple chances to do triage, right? So I just say if we can give clergy basic skills, so when you're on the receiving line, getting all this stuff thrown at you, or we're taking attendance on Sunday or over the weekend, that we can begin to look for certain things that we can make referrals to the community caregivers.
Yes. Yes. So all of this is what we're looking to just keep plugging away at into next year and get very operational about it in terms of raising awareness in the news, in the state government, where we can influence how they're enacting this law that requires requires more hospitalization. We're looking to influence a number of areas very visibly next year. So that'll be continuing the conversation. I'm always aware of the time, always like to end on time. I will stay on this with anybody that would like to stay longer. January 9th is the next time this group will meet. So we have a little bit of a respite between now and then for the Tuesday night. And January, February is when we will be scheduling filming at Centenary University. We will film all over the state of New Jersey. So depending on your interest and as we talk one-on-one between now and then, we can come to your location. We can take your input of where else, what else should we be filming? We're very serious about getting the first pilot out in the first quarter. We've been working on this for the full year, but as I said earlier, I've been working on it for 44 years. So it's time to produce, to have one done. So we're not going to go too far into 2024 without having at least a draft pilot. Having said that, we're also reaching out and talking to potential investors, and we're going a more informal route. It's more people we know, wealthy families in New Jersey who have been hit by a mental health tragedy are the ones that are being referred to us, law firms, etc. So the more I share with you about what this docuseries is, if you know of one individual, we'd love to meet. I'm not going for grants. I'm not going through that process. I'm just not going that route. We're going for bigger investors and real connections there. Sara has been probably the biggest influencer on that, helping us with people. So always need to end the year and begin the year with knowing we need to get this financed as well. And I just totally believe it will happen. I have no question that it's being orchestrated. So closing thoughts or questions from anyone, and was this worth it, this hour for you to be here?
It definitely was worth it.
Absolutely.
Glad to see and meet, and get to see old friend and meet some two new people. And I did want to just throw in before we close, the director or whatever the title is for health for Bergen County is a pastor, and he has an MDiv and a DMin.
Really?
Yeah, for Bergen County. Yeah.
Would you say
Hansel? I always forget Hansel's last, but Hansel, he's Puerto Rican, but he got his MDiv from New Brunswick. I forgot where he got his DMin, but just got his DMin. But he's in charge of health for Bergen County.
And Bergen County's done a lot of work with anti-stigma, or started it. Started it, I should say. Would that person would you think that person would be interested to join us at least for a meeting?
I'm gonna ask him. I mean, that's all you can do is ask him.
Well, would you ask him? Is that somebody
I'll reach out and have him get permission, give him your contact information.
Yeah, connect him with me. We'll just, that would be a great thing. Because yes, this is all of New Jersey, and we're focusing on New Jersey to make the impact. But as I said earlier, we do cover the United States. We have people from pretty much all the states, and then also globally. So we want to model this, and we want to show it in New Jersey. So
sounds good.
Any other comments or questions? We're good. Calvin, you're muted.
Yeah, I think it's important that we have something regularly that we can have this conversation and invite people. So I appreciate you hanging in there and keeping the momentum going, because it's very easy to get caught up in our day-to-day activities and lose the momentum, even though our hearts may be in the same direction. So I think these are good, and we should try to invite more people just to get the discussion going.
Calvin, that's a great way to close, because I'll send that out, for the January 9th, let's find, one more person, invite somebody. I'm probably the only one. I work full-time, 7 days a week on this. This is my full-time job. And I do realize everybody else has full-time jobs. So I love it when you do carve out the hour and respond. So it means a lot. We're going to make a big difference next year. So, all right, blessings, and lots of nurturing and care for you and your loved ones. And we'll see you in the new year.
Take care, everybody.
See you all. Have good holidays. All.
Thanks. You do the same. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.